It's 2023. You can walk outside your house, into a grocery store, or into a club, and you're bound to see a couple of different fashion senses. There are fashion senses based in monochromatism, based on body types, and based in eras from the past. Today, my fashion sense is based on what my mom wore to events and dinners. While she did wear dresses on occasion, she preferred to wear something like this, a nice overcoat with longer flowy pants and short heels. Like me today, my mom also wore short hair, whereas most women that we saw had at least shoulder length or longer. All in all, my mom usually wore the opposite of what women in her inner circle were wearing. While my mom is not to be credited for changing the fashion industry, her choices beg the question, who did? Eras like the 60s and 70s stuck to certain trends, because the fashion was infused with the lifestyle of those people. Women would go to salons every week. They'd get together and all wear variations of the same style. When a woman wanted to feel sleek, sexy, or professional, they needed extra tools, extra time, and extra help. Usually from a man. Women's fashion eventually broke free of this, but where did it all begin? Today we are going to be analyzing two visual specimens that changed the game in terms of women's fashion, the first of which being the DVF wrap dress by Diane von Furstenberg. Diane von Furstenberg created the DVF wrap dress out of the jersey dresses she brought with her to New York in 1969. She wanted to create a dress that was easy to take on and off, but was not made to look cheap. At the time, dresses were either too expensive or too cheaply made. With the jersey dress fabric used in the wrap dress, you could roll the dress up in a ball after a night out and wear it all the same the next day. It was a dress that opened up at the front with a belt to tie it up. The belt was often the same pattern as the dress itself in order to better blend in with the rest of the dress. Furstenberg describes her dress as during a time where female independence was already happening, not necessarily something that started it. She draws a comparison to the kimono, stating that the wrap dress has always been around and the only difference is in the material. To Spanish filmmaker Pablo Almodovar, it wasn't just a symbol of female independence, it was a symbol of femininity in general.
He said to me, "Oh, that wasn't an accident, because your dress is a symbol for me of a woman."
While the wrap dress was indeed a way of reinventing how women wore dresses, Furstenberg rarely ever wore one herself. With the history of the wrap dress in mind, let's talk about design. Since the DVF wrap dress is something that has form and we can physically touch, we will categorize it as in the area of 3D. Now, is the wrap dress an icon, a symbol, or an index?
Whoa. What the hell did those things even mean?
I'm glad you asked. An icon has no relationship with what it is signifying other than its likeness. Say, if you were trying to signify the moon, you could use a simple crescent shape. A symbol is something that has an arbitrary relationship with what it represents. Let's take a look at the peace sign, for example. It has nothing to do with peace, but we as a society have given it that meaning, so that's what it is. An index can be understood in a name, it's indicating what it literally is, and often operates sequentially. A QR code is an index, as it's indicating a link or URL. Now that we have a basic understanding of the three, we can put the DVF wrap dress in its proper place. While the wrap dress simply is just a dress, it invokes a response from the viewer. For most viewers who understand the history of the dress, it invokes the idea of female independence or femininity in general. Since there's no perceivable connection between the actual dress and the idea of female independence, it is safe to categorize this dress as a symbol. We can go even further by describing what is known as meta-symbols. These are symbols whose meaning transcends the tangible realm of a simple one-to-one relationship. As the dress is not easily read as female independence to the uneducated viewer, it can be categorized as a meta-symbol. But we can't end our analysis right there. We must first understand the concept of catalog, commercial, and/or couture, as well as discussing the principles and elements of design.
That sounds like a lot of work, and I really don't have the time for that.
Not to worry. It's really simple once you put it all together. Catalog, commercial, and couture can be broken down into Naya, Maya, and Mana. Naya is not advanced yet accepted, basically what people are comfortable with. Maya is most advanced yet accepted, which is pushing the billet but still in the comfort zone. Mana is advanced and not accepted, really only being used by models or placed in museums, not really being utilized by the general public. The wrap dress is the perfect example of Maya, as it was brand new, but affordable to the public. Here are all the elements of design. While the wrap dress utilizes most of these, the most notable is illusion and emphasis. Diane von Furstenberg rarely wore her own dress because of its accentuation of the waist. Illusion is used to alter the perception of the viewer in a way tricking their eye. It utilizes the illusion that was created with the belt to emphasize the female figure. In reference to the elements of design, while shape and form were at the core of this design, texture is the main element being utilized by the designer. Texture is the tactile feeling that plays upon the viewer's senses when they come into contact with the surface of an object. You know it's a good design when so much can be determined at first glance. But with that, we move on to our next visual specimen, the 5-point cut. The 5-point cut was part of a line of geometrically based cuts created by Vidal Sassoon. It is described as a snug, sleek helmet with a W cut at the nape of the neck and a pointed spike in the front of each ear. Sassoon credits the geometric nature of the cut to the architecture of the Bauhaus. Hair at this time required many tools and salon visits just to maintain. You had to put curlies in at night, use heavy amounts of hairspray and lacquer just to keep it in place, and rely on the overhead dryers at salons to maintain that look. Leading up to the 5-point cut, Sassoon brainstormed many cuts that were meant to be simple so that the process of the cut was simple. He eventually figured out, however, that in order to get a cut that perfectly fell back into place without help, the cut would have to be a little more complex. Grace Coddington, creative director of American Vogue, was the model who wore the original version of the 5-point cut.
5-point cut for me was the epitome of 9 years of work that led up to it. It was the last cut of geometry that, in essence, covered the whole head, because you had to create the points here depending on bone structure where it was on the individual character you're working on.
With that, let's talk design. Like the wrap dress, the 5-point cut is a meta symbol for women's independence, but it could also be considered an icon because of its inspiration from the structure of the Bauhaus. Because the 5-point cut was made per individual, it can be considered commercial, which is most accepted yet advanced, or Maya. The most apparent usage of the design principles is how Sassoon utilized balance and proportion. Being based in geometry and its dependence on the bone structure of the individual, the success of this cut stems from the following of these principles. Being based in the area of 3D, the most important design element used in the 5-point cut is form. The development of 5 points focused mostly on form as opposed to the other elements. Now that we've analyzed both specimens, let's see how they compare. The DVF wrap dress and the 5-point cut are both meta symbols for female empowerment and independence. They are both commercial as they were advanced in design but pushed to the general public, both in the areas of 3D. They were both created to make women's daily lives easier and both made so that women would not have to spend as much time and money on their hair and outfits. Both were emblematic of their own time period, the 5-point cut in the 60s and the wrap dress in the 70s. They were different, however, in many ways. The creators had the same intention, to make the women's lives easier, but the creators were vastly different. Vidal Sassoon knew he wanted to do hair for the rest of his life. His work aimed to dismantle the culture of something physically, in this case, the use of curlers. By the time the cut was made the norm, his work had successfully done that. Diane von Furstenberg's work did not aim to dismantle anything. She didn't just work on making dresses either. She had to lean on other endeavors like her perfume brand in order to save her company when it first took off. While her work reinvented the dress, it did not replace its original counterpart. Furstenberg does not see her idea as an original one, crediting kimonos and other dress styles before hers. Sassoon, drawing inspiration from the architecture for a haircut, was entirely his idea and life's work. The 5-point cut depended on the individual, where the wrap dress works better on women with certain body types. Furstenberg herself doesn't wear the dress as much because, according to her, she doesn't have much of a waist anyways. The 5-point cut is more of a technique than a style, so it has little to no variation, unlike the DVF wrap dress that can vary depending on the length, style, or even pattern of the dress. Because of this variability, the wrap dress has lasted the test of time better than the 5-point cut has. These are all things to think about when looking at fashion and design. Where did it come from? Is it old? Is it new? Who's the designer? Who's the inspiration for the individual? Taking into account more than just color and era, we can truly understand someone's fashion sense, not by just what we're seeing, but by what the individual is trying to tell you.